I'm not a big film person. Now, whether that's him also sort of vicariously
I'm
living
sorry,
through the
did you say
characters is a
you're not a big film
possibility.
person and you do a movie podcast?
Well, it's because it's not strictly movies. It's also dramas. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Caffeinated Librarians. I'm Simona.
I'm Amy. And Lou is coming
And
in to
today
join
we're
us today.
discussing. Oh, awesome. So today we're going to be discussing the 2020 romantic drama film Malcolm and Marie, and it's written and directed by Sam Levinson. And the film stars Zendaya and John David Washington. I liked the film. Um, and I'll just go briefly into the reasons why I liked it. I liked that it was shot in black and white. I thought it gave it a very old Hollywood's kind of feel to it. I also liked that it was filmed in one central location because I felt that it really allowed you to interact with the characters on a deeper level. And also the fact that there's not a lot of action, it really helps you focus on the characters themselves and what they're experiencing, what they're going through at the moment. And it's also, you get that feeling that you're in on a very private moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I liked the film. But from what I gathered, do you two feel the same way?
Okay,
It's
well,
gonna be one of those things where I'm gonna be repeated.
it's not that black and white, but um for me. There are some yeah, that just dropped. It was that good. Um so I think there were a lot of problems with it. There are the problems with the couple that, like, okay, they're supposed to be there, but then there's the problems that it seems like Levinson just brought in from his own life. And it was dueling monologues. Like, they did not have one normal conversation in the whole movie, and that's hard to act with. So, I mean, they were fantastic. Both of them were fantastic. And I don't think most people would do that well with roles where they're just yelling at each other. Um, but and the harder part is that I do appreciate some of the filmmaking choices and stuff like that. But overall, I was just like, why am I why am I watching these two people just shout at each other? And Lou. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'll say that I really I liked it, but I think I was expecting to be blown away by it, and I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they do the interesting thing at the beginning where they're um, paralleling his movie to what you're watching, and they say, you know, why does it have to be about a black girl recovering from drugs? Why can't it just be about a human being recovering from drugs? And then, so that's a commentary on what we're watching right there. But then he brought race into it quite a bit. So I thought that that was misleading. And then um, the whole thing with the LA Times reporter, I mean, that was like Sam Levinson got like a scathing review for Assassination Nation from an LA Times
Mm-hmm.
reporter. And whenever they would talk about the LA Times reporter, it was almost, I almost felt like it was just Sam Levinson kind of complaining about that review. Like it was a scathing review.
Right. And the same thing was happening. He's white and he was writing for two black characters. And he was like, you know, it was so much of the movie was taken up by that conversation that he was having with himself, um about why it doesn't matter, like the race of the author, and 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 nobody can be in anybody's head. And it was so much less of a think piece and more of a tantrum
Yeah.
because of it.
What this movie I think did do well are the moments when they're physically in the same house, but they're occupying in many moments in the film separate rooms, or they're shouting across at each other. Like, I love the intro where she's in the restroom and he's talking to her, she says, I can't hear you, and he basically screams, is like, oh. So I
Can I
like those
just say,
moments.
though, that is my
Yes.
life. That is my life. My house is 1,200 square feet. I live in a very, very small house. And all I do is just reply to people with, I can't hear you. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous all the time. It's like if there was a cloud, like one of those word clouds, the biggest one would be, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I love you.
Yeah.
What? Use your inside voice.
Yeah. I found though that, when they are shouting, because when you're angry and you're bottling up things, and Marie she starts up very calm, and she progressively, as she starts to realize, I'm not getting through with you by being calm and being level headed, I have to sort of shout at you. And I've been in situations where the fight just keeps on escalating, where you're like, oh, and it basically gets to a point where you
Right.
eventually vent, and then it comes down, and then it goes back up. So I found that very realistic. And obviously, when Malcolm talks to Marie, he's using words to cut at her, to reach her where she's weakest. And the moment in the bathtub was very heartbreaking,
Holy
where
moly.
she's just lying in the bathtub. Yeah, and he's cutting her to pieces with what he knows will hurt her the most. And eventually she tells him, you were very low at that point. You threw back at me moments that I shared with you, moments that I'm ashamed of, and you used them to hurt me. And a part of him realizes that, and a part of him is battling with his ego. He has a huge ego. He accuses Marie of having one, but he has a super ego. And I think it's not really until the end where he really comes to terms with that. And he actually, when he says, I'm sorry, that he genuinely means it in the end.
I kind of felt that, I think everybody's been in fights where somebody goes low. And I think that, I know me personally, like in my relationship, like you have to be sorrier, you know? Like if you messed up and you hurt me badly, I need to know, like, sorry. Like I said, I'm sorry. Like that is not gonna work. You need to know why you're sorry. You need to tell me what happened, why you're sorry. And then I still need time. And, and I don't know if it's a man woman thing or, just, the people I tend to have relationships with, but I definitely feel that there was a lot of truth in, like I felt awful and I said I felt awful and you said it was okay, because like the onus is on you to make it okay, and you said it was okay so as not to ruin my big night, and now it's not okay. Yeah, because it's not okay. It wasn't okay. It always hurt. And you're realizing, and like at the end, when, and I think that if she'd done that speech at the beginning, thank you for doing all the moving stuff, because I hate that. Thank you for doing my laundry. Thank you for this. Thank you for making sure I am not a jerk and ruin my entire career and personal life because I'm such a jerk. Thank you for keeping me not so much of a jerk that I can't be alive anymore in terms of, functioning. So, like, because he thought it was just like, thank you, Marie. It was, and it wasn't like, and like she was just cutting through all of the layers of why she was hurt. And he was cutting all through the layers of why she was a jerk to tell him that she was hurt. And, and just like the bathroom attack was just insane. Like, I keep thinking about that. Like, if anyone like came in and just started tearing me down like that, I mean, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, I'd like to be like, I would drown him, but I wouldn't. I would probably just sit there and cry and and then keep crying. Um, but the maturity she shows is really profound, considering she's like, I don't know how many years younger. She went through. She did the work. She did the work. She went into the hospital. She did all of the work. She learned how to actually express herself instead of deflecting through anger, which is what he's doing. He's just being like, well, I'm not a jerk. You're a jerk. Yeah. And, that's never really an appropriate way to go. But, it's interesting, since she's younger than he is, that he is like tantruming all over the place, and she's like working through her feelings. She's doing actual work, and she is deciding if she is going. And that she was there in the morning, like I loved that scene, but it was for the wrong movie. She should have been gone. She should have been gone. Like, there's no way I could get through a night like that. And like, not, and practical matters aside, because people stay in crappy relationships for a lot of really practical reasons. But I think, all things being equal, and since for me, like, having a kid is kind of that, like marriage wasn't that deciding factor of like, no going back now. And when people said that to me, I was like, no, I can totally go back after getting married. I can take my stuff. Like, we had nothing going in. We'll just, he can take the bed and I'll take the couch and we'll be good. But if somebody talked to me like that and disregarded me and used every single thing, like, that she tried to kill herself with a pair of cuticle scissors. If somebody went so whole hog, instead of being like, oh my God, I was such a turd, I am so sorry, let me make you some mac and cheese. Like, I'd be gone in the morning. And that scene of them both wearing white and looking out to the sunrise together, and showing it looking through a window, so it's super private. There's they're all alone, and it's a brand new day, and they're gonna move forward. No, they are not. I'm like hitting my desk, and it's bad sound, and I'm sorry, but they're not gonna move forward. She is gonna be slashed to bits.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to get the impression that they are going to stay together, but nothing good is going to come of the relationship. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I thought it seemed like the way he was acting was 100 times worse than anything she said. Like, all she was doing was trying to tell him how she was feeling, and his response to that was, "You're a drug addict who tried to kill herself."
Yeah.
And this role that you feel so closely to, it's actually based on all these other women that I've been with in my life. Like, he was, and you know, the way that bathtub scene starts, they had just gotten into an argument, and you know, he walks in there, and you know, you expect him to, I don't know, I guess I expected him to apologize, but the first thing
Yeah.
he says is, did you really think my film was mediocre? Like, this guy is just so full of himself. And yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he had any redeeming qualities, but yeah, for some reason she's stuck in that relationship. She's not going to go anywhere.
Hmm. Yeah. And like I said, like for me, it would be like having a kid would make me like not mobile at all. But I have family that like I could be like, Mom, I need to stay with you because this is not a good place. And maybe she doesn't. But um I came away kind of hating him. And and I do want to, like, at some point, I know other, like, I know Simona, you might want to have like to talk about this, but I do want to talk about that one instigation that she really did when she got out of the bathtub and put on that song,
Mm-hmm.
which like I kind of have gone back and forth with her saying something, and like she was like trying to keep her side of the road clean but tell him in a way he understood that this is how her brain was acting. But part of me also feels, and and I know that, like, I have a history, everybody has a history of relationships that didn't work out, and bad horrible fights. And I don't know if I would go out there and do that night. I think I'd be like, I'm gonna go to bed, or I'm gonna chain smoke on one of the other balconies in this fantastic house. But I'm not gonna try and get logic out of you.
Yeah, I've said it before and I'll
Yeah,
say it
I
again.
can definitely.
How the 1% live. You know. But yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Simona.
No, I mean, I can definitely see that. I mean, going back before I address the scene where she plays that song, because definitely once I heard it playing, I definitely knew I'm telling you through the song what I'm feeling right now. And the way he looks at her, he gets it. And that's another beautifully done scene where she's basically telling through the song,
Right.
okay, you like music, because he plays music from the moment he enters the
Hmm.
home.
And I just need to
Um,
interrupt for 1 minute.
yeah,
He looks at her like a kid whose mom said he couldn't have a freaking cookie. He looked at her like, why are you hurting me?
yeah, because
Okay. And now I'm backing up. I'll stop talking again.
no, because it also goes back to, and one thing I want to address, their backgrounds. But yeah, I definitely like that scene where she plays the song, because music is very important. Music plays throughout the movie to express their moods and what they're feeling. And often enough, people use that medium as a form of expression when, words are obviously failing me right now. This is what I'm going to play to hopefully get through to you. I just want to briefly go back to the ending. The way I saw the ending was that there's a possibility for change, because it's very open ended. You don't know if the next morning, the next day, they're going to still be together, if they're going to go to back to the same habits that they've sort of, or the same patterns that they've gotten used to, or if eventually she's going to say, I've had enough, I'm leaving. It's a possibility. It's very open ended. But there's a possibility that he has changed, or he's working towards, and there's a possibility that he's going to fall into the same old habits, and eventually they're going to break up, because I don't know how long they've been together. Yeah, so that's how I kind of took the ending. Maybe I'm more hopeful, but I could be wrong. Um, but I think their backgrounds are very important, because it goes to another discussion that Marie has about privilege, and basically saying how, you've written this film, people think that you have the cred to back it up, but your mom is this, your father is this, your sister is, you come from privilege, you've never known what it means to struggle, you've never known what it means to be isolated, to have no one. So I think that's another aspect of his personality, where he grew up very privileged. He's not an only child because he has a sister, and I'm sure he and his sister were given everything that they ever wanted. So he doesn't know what it means for someone to tell him, no, you can't have this right now, no, we can't afford to get this right now. She, on the other hand, knows what that's like. She knows what it's like to have to depend, to not be able to depend on anyone, to only have herself. I like when she says, I peed in the yard. He goes, just use the badges. Well, I've never had a backyard. I'm still getting used to the novelty. And when she walks around, like, at one point I was saying, my God, that's a huge property. I wonder like how far it goes, because she's just wandering around. And and that was very telling. She says, I've never grown up with this. I'm still getting used to it. Deal with it. And then she goes back inside the house. Whether she really did pee, I really wonder, like, did you really pee there? But yeah, so I think that's a major reason behind their two personalities. Not that growing up underprivileged can make you a snob, but I think with his character, that's like an added layer to why he feels this way. Also, from what I understood, this is probably the first movie he's ever made where he's received this much acclaim.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like where he's ranting at her about, hard work. When she says, is this when she says, why didn't you cast me in the movie? And he basically says, oh, you never wanted it. And, this is not an excuse to feel down. You just work hard and you work at it until you make it, and you take the failures and blah, blah. He's preaching to her again. So I think that's another aspect where he probably feels like I'm not appreciated, and finally someone sees the genius that I am, yeah. So, I mean, I'm kind of hoping that at the end they are working towards a better future. Whether or not that's the case, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely know women in my family who, for one reason or another, stayed in relationships that were very unhealthy, but they still stayed. I even witnessed some of it, and I was like, why are you with this? You know, it's believable that she probably will remain with him. I don't know what the tipping point for her would be. I mean, if this, and even when he says, when she's in the tub, he says, like, I could snap your neck, or what does he say to her?
I could break you like a twig.
For me, I don't know. That would, that would kind of be the straw that breaks the camel's back. The threat of violence.
Physical,
yes,
emotionally.
Yeah. So, and she is very vulnerable. She's also naked, which adds to the vulnerability. Like, she's curled up in the tub, and he's like shouting at her. Not really. Well, he is shouting at her, but also like,
oh yeah,
the threats of violence. It's a very tough scene, and I wonder if they seem very isolated. So you get the feeling that it's this huge house, but like, I wonder, where is the nearest? I was curious. At one point I was like saying, well, if she wanted to leave, I'm assuming she drives. I don't know. She may or may not drive. Like, where would she go to? Like, where is the nearest neighbor? So there is that sense that they're very isolated.
The production company put them up in that house, so that we're not really seeing where they live so much as like their fancy life, and I don't, maybe they live in an apartment, and they've just been staying there for like a few months for like press runs and stuff like that. And and that obviously would be a hard place to leave. It's a hard position to be in, for sure. I did like, I mean, there were so many things that I really did like about it, but it was just so, if everybody's speeches were like 2 minutes shorter, I think they could have had a really good movie. But it was like diatribe after diatribe, and on both parts, and like they both, like, I was thinking like they should just publish the script as like monologues for auditions, because it's all like, it's great stuff. It's just, it shouldn't all be in the same place. And and when she's talking about, like, there are so many good times when I really loved what she was saying, and how it pointed to their relationship, like when the review came out, and all of a sudden they're not fighting anymore. They, like, fight completely on hold. Where's my wallet? And she tells him, and he, like, it's not there because he wasn't looking, like, under things, like, you got to move things, all the people in my home. um so it was probably under something on his night table where she told him where it was. And then she said, where did you find it? And he's like, never mind. Like, yeah, of course I found it where you told me it was. And like, it was, I see how caring she is. And I mean, I think a lot of people turn to self-medication when they care too much, like, it's definitely probably tempting to just numb it down, so that you're not always feeling what everybody else feels, and you're not always, and this is something I'm dealing with, especially right now when we're all locked in my family. You know who supports the supporter? Like, like, and it's not like, I'm taking care of everybody physically, I'm not, but I'm definitely the emotional carer. And the breakdown that happens when you give and give and give and give and give. I definitely, I know people that are or were struggling with drugs and alcohol, and and I think it's because their feelings run so deep that they need to numb it down.
No, definitely. The film reminded me a lot of 12 Angry Men.
Didn't see it.
It's a 1957 film, and it's about these 12 men who are in a jury. And the entire film takes place in the room where they're deliberating the guilt of this young boy who has been accused of murdering his father. And over the course of that deliberation, like, there's the central character, I cannot remember the actor who's in it now. Oh, he's the one that's taking the stance of, he could be guilty, he could not be guilty, we just don't know. And basically saying, could certain circumstances that may be unbelievable be probables? Like he mentioned, supposedly the young man, they found the switchblade that he used to kill his father. The young man claimed, oh, it fell out of a hole in his pocket. And you have one character who's very prejudiced because the young boy comes from a low income area of the city. So the characters are dealing with their own prejudices, their own biases, and everything comes to a head at one point where they all basically confront, yes, we're going to admit we have these issues. And the film ends, and you never know what their final verdict is. Probably not guilty, but you never know. But it is that back and forth between the characters. So, and I love that film. So I saw this as going back to that, where you're just focusing on characters. There's not a lot of action. You're not being distracted by what's going on outside. You're focusing just on the characters.
Right.
And I like that. That's what I appreciated about the film. So it definitely reminded me of 12 Angry Men.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I mean, it might just be that I can't, like, I'm taking this as just a whole, and I can't break it apart. So it's just, that he's so icky. And like, that's the whole plot of the movie, that he's being icky. But that monologuing style with his ickiness, kind of, it's a lot to handle, but it, like you're saying, it is a great character study. And, you know, I don't know this director, I don't know his work. So, you know, this could be his style, and I could be, you know, conflating all of these issues that I have with the movie together. I love that this was made during the pandemic. I love that they had like a skeleton crew, they had the two cast members, um, and it felt very college theater to me. You know, where you have like the one camera guy and the two actors, and you know, that dude wrote it. So, you know, that was that was appealing to me. And just like when they first walked in, I loved it. You know, just when like that, when they came in and before all of the drama started, you know that she's upset, but he's happy. And, you know, I also, as an aside, just wish that if she, you know, that he didn't persist on opening this wound tonight. You know, we're seeing her, you know, neither at her best nor her worst. And we're seeing him definitely at his worst, because like, this was my night and you're ruining it. and you know, and I do get that, you know, even though I'm like, well, you know, you're seriously immature if you can't understand what she was asking for, and it took you a whole night of berating her to get that out of her. But like she said at the beginning, like, nothing productive is going to be said tonight. And she's making him his macaroni and cheese, and she's smoking her cigarette, and like, you know, she's just gonna go to bed. And would she have said anything in the morning though?
No,
Probably.
I don't think so. I don't
Yeah,
think she would have.
I'm leaning with you, Lou. I don't think she would have. I think she would have been like, I was ridiculous. Because it's easier. It's easier than having a fight with someone like that.
Assuming that probably he hasn't changed, or he hasn't had the revelation that she wanted him to have. I mean, if I take the more positive outlook, it's a possibility. Because, you know, he seeks her out in the end. You know, he reaches for her, he sees that the bed is, you know, it's not warm anymore. And he goes, you know, where is she? And she's waiting for him. You know, in the morning, she hasn't waited for him to wake up. She's up and she's waiting for him to seek her out.
Is she
And he
waiting for him,
does.
or did he just catch her before she ran?
Or
No, I
yeah, is
think
she thinking about her life choices?
Yeah.
no, I think she's waiting for him.
Yeah.
And I think he seeks her out. And at the end, they're standing sort of side by side, and they look at each other. So I definitely think she's waiting for him. Had her intention been to leave, I mean, I'm assuming she drives, there is a car. I mean, there's a lot of us, you know, she could have left. You know, if she had said, you know, okay, I'm gonna leave, maybe come back the next day or whatever, that's what you can sort of believe. Like when you first see that scene, like I thought, okay, she's left him, you know.
Right.
And he's looking for her, and eventually he finds her. So I don't know. I guess maybe I'm taking the more positive view. And also I think it depends on who you think really has the real power in the relationship. If you're assuming that he's the one with the power, then yes. But if you're assuming that ultimately she is the one that has the true power in the relationship, or she is the one that has managed to make him basically go down on his knees and say, I'm sorry, I'm behaving terribly to you, and I realize that, and I'm going to do better. I guess it really depends on who you believe has the power within the relationship. She's definitely painted or portrayed as the more emotionally vulnerable one, and she may very well be, but she also has a lot of strength. I think the fact that she's even standing up to him in his moments where like he threatened, like I could snap your neck, or I think the fact that even when he pushes her, she pushes back, she's not giving in. She's basically taking a stand. And at the end, where she has that epic monologue, which I loved, where she's saying, this is what I want you to say. Thank you for being there. Thank you for cooking for you. Thank you for this. And he's just sitting there. He's not interrupting. He's literally just, for the first time throughout the night, he's listening to her, and he's really listening. You know, he has his listening ears on. And she says, this is what you can thank me for. And you see that in his face, he's realizing, I've messed up. So yeah, I see it as it's going to work out.
I felt like I felt like, you know, I was getting the new day, the white clothes, and, you know, that kind of first couple feel, like they're the only people on earth, but also like that house was portrayed as just all windows. And then like the only scene where he's walking and looking for her, that it's all gray. There's no, like, you're seeing all internal house structure only in that scene was pretty meaningful. And, you know, and it may mean, like, you know, maybe he's turned around and he's seen the error of his ways. But, you know, I don't think that even like that willingness to go that low in a fight, I feel like that's a practiced thing. You know, I had a friend who like learned her fighting style from her first boyfriend, and like I remember her saying it was just the person who could cut the deepest. You know, it was just like, can you mortally injure the other person? And unlearning that to have a healthy relationship, unlearning that you should like just emotionally maul the other person into submission. And that's clearly not a skill he learned yet, and I don't know if he will. And was she like, how old? Let's just say she was a 20-year-old drug addict, and he is, I think he's supposed to be, he's 10 years older than her or 8 years older than her in real life. So if we're assuming that they got together when if she was 18, 19, like that's still a really developmental time. And I'm going to say that he might be done growing.
Probably. Probably.
So yeah, I mean, I'd say people haven't seen it. I'd say, you know, you're always the one that does this, and I'm going to do it today. I'm going to do it today. If you're listening to this and not wildly confused because you haven't seen it yet, I would recommend it just to see what you shouldn't do. You know, there's definitely a what not to do that you can take away from this. There's definitely seeing how brilliantly she kept her side of the street clean, even in the face of him going into the pits. And I did like the cinematography a lot. I thought that the, you know, the way they filmed it, the color was really well done. And especially with so much of the content being about race, you know, that not being like an accident, that they did it in grayscale.
Yeah. And I would say the same thing. I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah. And, you know, he is very good in it, John David Washington. He's excellent in Black Klansman, if you haven't seen it.
Oh, cool.
And Black Klansman is hilarious.
Oh, okay. Then I'm definitely going to watch it.
You should definitely check that out. But I would say the thing that I took from this the most was Zendaya just completely graduated from the Disney Channel to A-list celebrity stardom.
magnificent. She
yeah.
just chewed the scenes. Like
Yeah.
she was fantastic.
And it's a shame. I don't know if it wasn't released in time for why she wasn't nominated for a Golden Globe for it. But that's a shame, and I have a feeling that she'll be winning an Oscar though.
Yeah.
Well, she's gonna be in the new Dune film that's coming out,
which looks epic.
so that should be interesting to.
Yeah.
Yeah, what
I
she does
didn't
with
even
that,
know that this
so.
existed.
Yeah.
I now have to Google
It was
this.
supposed to come out in December.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's coming out on HBO
it
Max
looks
at
really,
some point, right?
yeah, it looks really good. I think they're gonna try to do it as a two-parter, because the director like believes that the sheer epicness of the story can't be told in one film, so I think he might be doing it in two. But I've seen the trailers. It does look very good.
Yeah.
Neat.
Interesting to see what they do with the storyline.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us. It was fun and look forward to talking with you all next time.
Take care.
Bye everyone.
As we wave.
As
Bye.
we wave to each other. Bye everyone.